There was a lot of discussion because it's quite relevant to the experience here in India, and the discussion was triggered with the sharing of the experience of mining in Orissa State about natural resource exploitation in the areas of indigenous peoples, which is, of course, something that indigenous peoples are struggling with around the world. It's been a recurrent issue, for example, in Latin America, in the Andean region, and has sparked very intense controversies. And there was an emphasis here, which is, of course, consistent with the overall theme of the conference, on the importance of transparency and bringing the people in and educating them. People can't give meaningful consent if they don't have informed consent. And that means that the asymmetries in information and understanding need to be leveled. It's not just about having the processes be transparent, but meaningfully so. There's a parallel here in terms of the release of data that's released in accessible and machine-readable forms. There was an emphasis on the need for the active participation of citizens, and obviously educated and informed participation, and multi-stakeholder conversations. This has a parallel in something else we talked about, which is the role of international businesses. And here a strong emphasis was laid on the emerging realization, I won't say it's universal, but on some of the companies, for example, oil companies, others that are involved in extractive industries, that help to make possible the emergence of the extractive industries transparency initiative, that actually it's not in the interest of international corporations involved in extraction to extract contracts or impose contracts that are one-sidedly and, disgustingly in their favor because they're not sustainable. And people may discover the injustice that's been done to them and the violation of national sovereignty and revoke them. Companies don't only seek to maximize their profits, they also value stability, sustainability, predictability, these things as well. And a more just, better informed deal for the extraction of resources, which involves the society and leads to broad and informed conclusion, is actually more deeply in the interests of the corporations as well. So this brings us back again to multi-stakeholder conversations and informed consent. And then finally, we also talked about the special interest, special case of a certain subset of countries in the world whose economies, generally lower and lower middle income countries, are dominated by natural resource wealth and natural resource exports. Usually these are the oil and gas exporters, sometimes hard metals as well. And here it was observed that the consequences of this domination and distortion of their economies are so severe, what's sometimes been summarized as the resource curse, that radically disruptive measures may be necessary. This not only includes everything Danny Kaufman was talking about in terms of very radical, comprehensive, systematic transparency, but thinking very, very creatively and aggressively about every piece of the value chain. If you'll go back to his very excellent presentation this morning, and also the idea that's gaining some interest among both indigenous actors in some of these countries and international officials and thinkers of possibly giving some share of the natural resource revenue directly back to the people in terms of cash transfers.